All right, hello everyone. Welcome back to iTeLearn, another training, mastering the element identification. So we are more like the first of 4 to 5 sessions, and the whole intent is of this specific training team is to focus on Selenium element, and I'll just call this as element identification methods. How do we go about identifying them? So the predefined things that come with any web applications and how we can use the different methodologies to identify. That's what we're going to focus on, team. So to do this, I'm assuming a certain amount of prerequisites that you've already started with. So if not, then you can look at it as is, but primarily I'm going to be using Eclipse. So your Eclipse with your complete Java JDK is all set up, and you have your Selenium and other drivers, basic Java code. Because what we want to do here, team, and this is Selenium WebDriver, is while we have things like Selenium IDE or a Catalan recorder to inspect elements, to identify them and so on, we would try and do it more at a code level rather than focusing on Selenium IDE. So I'm going to skip all of these sessions, team, and we'll go straight into creating a simple one. So for this, we'll take a few sample applications, and the idea is to slowly grow the complexity and how we can start to identify. But team, from a focus perspective, focus a lot on the approach. So how I approach things in trying to make sure that once you identified these elements, there's no challenge on the application for automation. So what typically is happening, team, when we talk about element identification and why is it essential? A quick 2 minutes on it. And in the meanwhile, let me also get Eclipse started. All right. And while I'm doing that, I would love the audience to tell me what your expectations are in these sessions and what is it that you're capturing, apart from what I'm also, already mentioning. So very simple, team. When we talk about moving from manual testing to automation, we are teaching a tool, an automation tool to do that kind of testing on it. Now for this, like I always mention, there are only two important things. For a human, as we are intelligent, we have seen things for a long time. So as soon as I say, hey, here is a web-based application and we need to do certain things on it, we know, okay, what details are needed. And it will go about doing it accordingly. For a human, we do not need to provide too much data. But when it comes to a machine, it only follows simple instruction. There is no intelligence, real or artificial, into it. So the instructions come as steps from us, correct everyone? In Selenium IDE or Selenium WebDriver, like open the browser, navigate to this URL, click this link, type this, and so on. Now, the only important aspect when you're getting into automation is the art of identifying what we need to do and then the where we need to perform that. All right. In this what and where, the what becomes easy, team. Why is what an easy thing? It is an action. What is it that we want to do? So if you look at your keyboard and mouse and your screen, those are the inputs for us, right? So what is it that I can do on a keyboard? I can type, I can click, I can read text out of the application or look at an image. All these things are what I can do. But very limited set of it. So you already know that, okay, there are about 20-25 main important keywords or the command that we perform. Okay, these are all WebDriver commands. But when it comes to the where portion, it all depends on the application and how that specific element or object is visible on it. So let's take a sample application team for it to lead us. Which one should I take? I'm just thinking. I want to start with iTeLearn.com. There are a few things there that will be kind of interesting. So whenever you're testing or whenever you're automating anything, always open up the application in an incognito window. When you open it in an incognito window, it will not recognize any of your users and credentials or cache and so on. It is primarily focusing on how any new visitor will look at it. So let us assume that this is then the application that we have right now. And why do I have two of them? Oh, sorry. Yes, then I can close this. And now there are certain things that we can automate in this. When we talk about automating, at the end of it, the way Selenium looks at thing is by right clicking and looking at this entire page source. It is not focused specifically on, looking at it visually like we do, team. So this is our view. The view for Selenium would be more out here, what we call as the document object model. So it will go into this and look at certain things called as a HTML tags and so on. Now, the other thing definitely I want to mention is your HTML skills. So basic HTML skills are critical, team. We'll try and work a little bit on them too. Okay, so let's start with iTeLearn.com and how do we approach. So now the whole criticality is about identifying where these objects are. So what I want to do and where they are is my focus area, but we'll be spending a lot of time on this where portion, team. This should become easy. Now for us to get started, let's start with a new Eclipse project. So I'm going to start with new Java project and I'm going to give this a name of must element identification. And let it be with the same Java runtime environment 1.8. Nothing else that we're changing here, and I'm saying finish. So even if you're someone new to coding or Java, it is absolutely fine to kind of go through what we're doing here. The reason is your focus should be not on programming too much right away, but on the Selenium commands and how we are identifying those elements. It should be, okay, there you go. Actually, you know what? I should have maybe created that in a new workspace. Why don't we do that? Sorry. Let me delete this, team. Just right clicking and deleting. Okay, on disk 2. I don't need anything there. File, switch workspace. So I will now say other trainings, and now there we go. So I've changed the workspace. So far comfortable. Anyone in this audience right now who's not very comfortable with a few of these prerequisites that I've written? Eclipse and how we create a Java project in that, then having a JDK installed on your machine, Selenium WebDriver and other drivers like web browser drivers that you need. And if you're not aware, team, we'll cover this a lot again. All right, so I have my new workspace, so that way all that I see will be my code. I've closed that welcome. Now out here, I'm going to say file new Java project. Okay. I've already named my workspace as element identification. So let's call this as EID1, for example. And if I'm doing it on iTeLearn, I'll just say iTeLearn. So this is the project under which I can have multiple Java classes or programs into it. Okay. Now, let's say finish. And we have the basic structure where there is the inbuilt Java runtime environment system library that has to come standard built in. Then you have the source folder where we can go about creating our first Java program. So I right clicked on the source. I'm not creating more complexities by adding packages and so on, team. So let's keep our code simple. Let the focus be on elements and how we identify them. So I say a class, and what is the name? I'll just say this is iTeLearn _1. I'm going to create a simple Java class team and not doing a JUnit or a testng. So I'll keep a main method. So here is how things will look. Let's make it a little bit more easier for us. Right click, preferences. So team, Eclipse IDE is something you have to start doing one small code at a time to get used to it. Okay, so I'm going to kind of breeze through a little bit on the coding aspect, but definitely I'll keep explaining or talking about what I'm doing. Right click, preferences. So this is giving me an option to go and change the way things look here, especially for the live audience and video. I want to have the font size increased. So I'm just clicking on edit. I didn't change anything, and maybe I'll make it 16. Say okay, apply. Okay. So it gives us a better view, team. There's a lot more you can do with Eclipse, a lot of features. As long as you have line numbers and a good size to see, that's good. So what am I going to say? The first thing I'm going to print saying start of my test. All right. And end of my test. Now, the whole crux, team, and let's talk about how we go about identifying elements in this application now. For that, the most important thing for me to do is to know what the scenario is. First, if I know the flow of what those steps are for me to do on the application, then we can start to think about writing that code accordingly. So I'm not using Selenium IDE right now. If I face a challenge, then I'll go to Selenium IDE. So let's do one simple test scenario for search. Okay. And then maybe we can also do for login, either one. Let's try and see. So how do I do for search out here? So my steps are very simple. One, open, let's do Chrome. Two, go to AUT. Three, type search in search. Four is verify results. So let's say this is my flow of what I want to do, team. So when we're talking about these, it's very easy for us manually to understand this is how the steps are. Now let us talk about how we do it on the for Selenium to understand, for Java to understand these commands. Now team, there are two things in it. There are commands that are only Selenium WebDriver commands. There's nothing else like that is interacting with an element in it. Okay. And there are specific ones where you'll see we use a concept called find elements. And there you will notice a lot of focus in element identification. Okay. So for the base code, team, let me copy it from the previous one and bring it up here. C drive trainings. Where am I? DDF is fine. Source, just taking any one. All I'm doing is taking a couple of those steps where I'm getting into the application, team. That's it. This few. Let's walk through those now. So as soon as I write this, we would notice that there are a lot of things that will come up as an issue. And the most important factor is the concept that I have not associated any libraries here. So definitely I require to talk about where my different drivers are. So there is a Chrome driver.exe, the path to which is fine here, but I don't have my Selenium web driver. That is the basic one. So right click and go to your properties, Java build path, and say apart from what I have in the libraries, I want to add an external Java archived resource or jar. There's drivers here, and I have a Selenium server standalone, maybe an old version. What is the latest version, team? Let's make sure we get the latest version to seleniumhq.org, download, yeah, 31459. Keep show in folder. I'm just gonna quickly take that off. Where is it? And put it into the driver folder. Okay, it's same size, so almost everything is fine here. And maybe I would want to point to this Chrome driver. That's fine. That's fine. So Selenium server is here. Now all I'm doing in the Eclipse is to get to associate with the jar. There's no difference in the size as well, team, but I'm taking the latest one. So now anything to do with web drivers will start getting recognized. Let's review this code once we put in this. So for us, uh, let's start defining the objects that I need to work on. So there's a web driver and the name is my driver. So at this point, all I need to do is make sure I have an import for WebDriver. Where is it? Oh, I misspelled it, Tim. That's why it was not giving anything. So it was WebDriver, and then take your mouse over, import org OpenQA Selenium. So that's come in. Now I also need a Chrome driver, which is a separate sub package within Selenium. So I have both of these right now, a WebDriver and a Chrome driver. So what we have done so far is very simple in here. I'm telling where is my Chrome driver file. So if I want my application to interact, I need that. So that is the starting point of your automation, everyone. And I'm assuming that from an automation perspective, little skill maybe you carrying. So I'm going to cover on that too. What was that? Sorry. Right. Driver, right. So let's say this is my application team that we have it on the screen. Okay. Now, my Java code by itself does not know how to interact with it. And that is where a jar came in. That's our Selenium server, all right, or Selenium WebDriver. Now, this is helping me to interact with the application. So now I can write a Java command because of this to interact. Now, the challenge is I can have a Chrome, I can have an IE, I can have a Safari, Firefox, Opera, and so on, the different browser types. So what they have done is there is a generic jar, overall Selenium, but then for each browser, you have another, uh, specific library that is how it is customly interacting with them. So as these browsers like Chrome, Firefox, and so on release new versions, seleniumhq.org will keep updating the Selenium server and the individual browser jars as well. So on your Selenium's download page on seleniumhq.org, if you scroll down, you'll also see the driver files for the various browsers. So Mozilla, Chrome, Opera, Edge, all the ones that you have. All right, now great. Where are we? back to the code and let's write some stuff here now. So all we are saying is now I have an object called my driver that is pointing to any web driver. So it's nothing specific at this point. Only on line 14 am I making an assignment where I'm saying, hey, point it to a new Chrome driver. And on line 14 is when a browser is launched. So I now have access to the browser from my code level. I need to then start to do certain things in certain areas out there. What and how we will notice right now. So so that's the launch, and then we have another command called my driver manage window maximize. It's basically maximizing your applications. Optional, but just that when applications are resized and they become responsive, then the way the code is behind it, the way we interact with it in automation also should change. I see an error on line 16. It's basically that I need to make sure that I imported the time util um, thing also. So this is my wait until what amount of time before we throw an error. So this so far as the basic structure of a simple Selenium WebDriver code. If all works fine, it should be able to launch the browser and do nothing after that. So that's about it. And the code would have completed execution also. So end of my test is saying it. So don't worry too much on these red lines. It's basically communication between Chrome driver and our Java as to what's happening. It's a status update. That's it. Now, how do we go to that application? So anytime I want to interact with application, this is where we start using the oops concept. Now this name, my driver, will always point to that box where we have every detail of that object. Okay. See, the difference between a simple variable and an object in Java is variable will hold one set of information. You basically have a name to it, and then you put a value into it, whatever value you want. It could be numbers, text, and so on. But when it comes to an object, you have a series of properties and values for it. Properties and values. It is not like an array, but just that it has so many things to store information. Simplest example, if I say this is a car, then when I say I want to create a car object, then I'll say that in that class, there is a car make, model, year, all those details we could provide that define what it is. So the same way, now my driver is set to be a web driver. Then we said I'm pointing it to a new Chrome driver. So any command that I do is pointing to that specific object. Now, in this object, there are multiple things that we can do, team. There are actions that we can perform on it, and there are different properties and values that we can get. So as soon as I write my driver dot, you would see the list of actions that you can perform and so on. Some Eclipse pop-up error came up, and that's fine. So now our critical option is to go about doing the next version of it. All I'm doing here is just by memory team, I'm navigating. Why is it gone there? Dot to, and we're going to give the URL. So since we have a certain more amount of details coming in, so I'll have VURL, I'll have vSearch term, whatever I put. So these two will be my variables. So let's initialize these as well. Oops. Let's say we want to search for example ISTQB. That's my search term. So these are my two variables. Sorry, let me take that drawing away. All right. So go to the application and test. My driver.navigate, now it's not a hard-coded variable data anymore. I have it in a variable. So I'll just say it is VURL. So this command is taking us till the application. And from here, now I need to perform some tasks. So what is the next task that I want to do, team? Type in search. So here is where comes our finding an element and then doing something on it, team. So your find element will focus on different methods. Options. Let's say, what are the different options you can do? So the first and foremost, team, you'll notice things like ID, name, then there is link text, partial link text, and what's there next? Class CSS, xPath, and maybe one or two more. So as we go through these sessions, we will master each of them, team, and how we do it. We will also focus on dynamic apps, frames, pop-ups, alerts, Ajax fields, any Ajax kind of applications that we see. So these would be the ones we will look at. Okay. Now let's go explore one by one, team, so that it's checked out and then we can move on. So what do I mean by these details? The whole point is when Selenium tries to identify something on the application, it needs some set of information, and that information is provided in the HTML code that I was saying, correct? So if you click on any of these, for example, let's say get it on Google Play, right click and say inspect. That command, team, inspect is a very key thing. So please remember that. So right click and say inspect, and you would notice that this is the detail that is sufficient for us to show this specific button here. So it says image, source, and so on. And if you click on it, it is going to go to this specific link. These details are being found by us or by Selenium using looking at this code at the backend, team. One second, everyone. Sorry. So now our job is to go and find out how we can identify using any of these properties, team. So sometimes I may not have what I need, and that is where we have to be wise between choosing how we can go about identifying. But let's look at the first one. So right click and say inspect. That is the search field, correct? So out here, you would notice there is a specific HTML code overall that is put here. So right click and I'll say copy outer HTML. So I'm just taking that entire HTML, team, and take it into a simple notepad and put that code there. The whole intent is to try and analyze this code, team. Let's actually take it into our XPath here. So here is the detail of what this is going to look like on the application. Okay. Now I've taken the same information, team, that is there. Now look at how things shape up here. So if I change the data and say hello search, do you notice the change here, team? So this is giving you the access to how the look and feel and properties or actions are there on this specific field. And that is what we're looking at. Sorry about that. So for us, We now have control to that field team. We have enough information through which we can identify or work with it. So the first and foremost thing, without any hesitation, what we're going to go about is identifying using a simple name or ID. If you see an ID or name, let us take that and use it directly. Okay. And you never know till we try. So, but let's try it. Type class name. So name is there, placeholder value, autocomplete. So for me, this information phrase is the key thing. So I'm assuming that in this whole web page, there is not going to be another such field or anything that has a name called phrase. If it is, then I have a little bit more challenge. But now having taken this detail, how do I put it into the code? So my driver, as soon as I write my driver, it is pointing to the whole browser. Now in the browser, in the application, actually the Chrome browser with the app in it, what I'm going to say is find an element first. And the finding the element methodology is the one that we give out here. And it is called using what or by is the main thing team. So as soon as you say by and say dot, you would notice all the different methods that I was mentioning out here, like xPath, tag name, partial text name, ID, CSS selector, class name, and so on. At this point, team, what we have seen is name. So I pick name, and the value that I saw is phrase. Now, so far we have covered the where portion in the application. So the whole application and that one specific text field. So at this point, I could do certain things. Let's say I can click on it. Now on the same one, I would maybe want to type something, and I'll say that command is send keys, and we are sending something into it. What do I want to send? My search variable. So whatever is there in that. So I'm going to put this up. Now, to this point, we do not know if this is how it would work. So let's see. So it should be launching, going to the application, and we hope to see click, and it's searched for ISTQB. Now it has given us a few options out here, team. How do we select these options? Do you see this? All the search results are right out here. So if I hit an enter, I've got all my search results out here. So let's say I click on ISTQB videos, that is one result. But how do we know which result to click on? This will be very interesting. I'm sorry. All right. So team, I in fact like the fact that it got me the results for, in whatever it is doing out here itself. So if I do Selenium, for example, it's going to give me a bunch of results right out here. So I'm able to click one of them and go in further. So how do we get to this now next? See, the application has changed. I see a X out here, which was not there earlier. Then I see something out here and so on. So let's try and get a couple of more automations and see if this is there. I'm only gonna do ID or name for today, team. Anything that is coming up a little bit more, we're gonna mark it and take it into the next session. So here we go. Ting, 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 ting. This is a big one, but it is pointing to that. So if I want to click on this, which will clear whatever we have written, then here it is. So I'm seeing any properties that are like ID or name. It does not have anything but I would want to write an XPath for it in the next session. Oh, there is an ID here. X mark icon is there. I missed that. So let's try this. So once I type, the next thing I'm going to do, team, is wait for a few seconds. Thread.sleep, simple command to wait, let's say 3 seconds, because it is taking time to pop that details up, right? So I'm going to make it sleep quickly for a few seconds. And now I'm going to find the next element. So I'm copying that code because it is almost similar. But in this case, if actually nothing is similar. My driver dot find element. Till there, yes, things are similar. By using what did you notice? It was ID, team. That was the methodology that we were using. So by using ID, now the value was, oopsie, X mark icon in double quotes. Now I should be able to click on this, and maybe I'll have to wait again for a couple of seconds. And let's say I want to type the same thing over once again. See what I'm doing, team? Just expanding and playing around with the same application. The only way we're going to master our element identifications is by slowly repeating these on different types of elements and applications. Keep on doing it at a code level. So we're not verifying results, rather what we're doing is for a B plan is clear and research. Fair enough. That's what we're trying to do. So let's say I'm going to run this now. So save before run. Yes. Okay. Everyone with me? Any questions so far, please? What we are creating is a base of a code and a process through which we are able to start interacting slowly, and then we're going to advance this further. So did you see this, team? It has again typed something else. Now this is, at least we are able to be confident that this interaction is happening. At any given point, if the details of what we gave was incorrect, then there would be a challenge. So let's say now this phrase itself, I used it 4 places. If I was wise as a programmer, what would I do? I would rather parameterize it and put it up here. So I'll say XPath search, XPath search clear. Those are the only 2 things, right? So here I'll say XPath search equals this value phrase. And the big advantage is, if tomorrow the application changes from phrase, the developers decide to put, hey, you know what is phrase? Let's put search phrase. Then you don't have to change it in 100 places. You're changing it in 1 place. So this is my next. So all I'm doing is I'm putting XP search. Actually, let's do this first. Here and XP search without quotes because it is a variable name, and the same here and the same here. Why did I write XP search? I'm so sorry. I got used to saying XPath, but it is not XPath. It is just element identification. So I'm going to change this. I'll just say Control F. I'm searching for XP and change it to element ID. Is that fine? Or EID, and replace all. Close. Hopefully there was no other place where there was a word called XP. So okay, so ID search and ID search clear. and we have this scenario. Let's rerun this. And it's not the wait statements that we've put was critical, team. If we didn't put those wait statements, we know this application takes time. It may throw an error, you don't know. But as an habit, as I observed it, I kept adding it. But as you optimize it, you may reduce that wait, you may make it even more optimal. But make sure that the code works first. Because as you go about, you notice that, okay, let me put this also down. If I change this, for example, and this becomes search phrase instead of phrase, and I run this, see a lot of browser windows are open because I don't have a close or a quit at the end. Okay, did it do something? I didn't notice anything. No, it did not. Actually, it's supposed to fail. And that's where you would notice that it would throw up with an error and pointing to where it has failed. And the primary reason of the exception will also be mentioned, saying that no such element exception. Selenium could not find that element, providing what details we gave. So our journey should always be about constantly trying to rectify them. Do not try and put a try catch block up in front before making sure everything is correct, team. Once you know that you're interacting correctly with the application, that is when you need to add your try catch, because otherwise you'll keep missing and thinking that, oh, no error, so everything is fine. So the difference in this one is I did the challenge with X1. So it's going to wait for those 10 seconds that we have here before it throws that error. And it kind of gives me the same thing saying that, hey, now you know what, I have a challenge on line 39. We're clicking. So our data content here becomes important. So team, this is what you've seen in day one. I would want you all to take this as an exercise and repeat this for the login page. Where is it? Write a Selenium WebDriver plus Java code for login to iTeLearn.com. And it can be incorrect is fine. Can we do that, everyone? Write a code, show this to me tomorrow, please. If that code is ready, great. We can go through, review it, and discuss from there. That's it from my side for today. Any questions, please? I wanted to get this started in a way that, the whole test should be easy for us to understand. The flow should be there. And now we can focus on more and more intense. Let me close all the ones that I don't want. I'm going to rerun this, and this time I'm just going to change a couple of things. Do I need the sleep? I don't know. So let's see without any wait in between. Will it work fine? Because we anyway have the 10 seconds wait there. So did it fail? It did. Why? I didn't change X mark icon, correct, right? Maybe it went too fast to it. See, the sleep could have assisted maybe. That didn't happen. Now let's try and rerun. So team, I'll see you all tomorrow then, and we'll go deeper into identifying more elements. The wait statement has become important, team. See, we had to wait. Maybe shorter, but still the same. All right, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow then. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.